folks. There are only two good investments, and that's real estate and Subarus.
Brock Purdy
Welcome to
can buy
Dieter and Hutch.
could buy a whole bunch of them now. He's got $40 million in the bank. He's got probably another 165, 75 million coming. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
subtract the 40. So 135. I mean, who's
Yeah.
counting at a certain point?
177-ish. 177, 182, whatever.
And I feel really bad, Jake, for everybody last week who got in those takes. Oh, this is ridiculous. He's overpaid. He's overrated. This is preposterous. It's obviously not this simple, but it's not this more complicated. It's a 2+2 deal that averages out to about $30 million a year against the cap.
Yeah, it's an incredible. Let me just, because there's a lot of nitty gritty to get into, but let me just put it like this. The 49ers are paying on the cap $30 million a year for the next 4 years. They're paying Brock Purdy $44.25 million for those same 4 years because they can just do whatever they want with the cap because the cap is a joke.
That is incredible accounting.
It exists, but it's a wazi, it's a woozy, type situation.
Yeah.
It's a little fugazi. And Purdy, as he intimated, which I think was my number one takeaway, is he did not push for the most that he could get because that's why this deal got done when it did, because the 49ers are like, okay, yeah, we'll basically guarantee you those 4 years.
Yeah.
But we'll give ourselves a little bit of optionality on the back end. And by year 4, we can kind of do whatever we want.
To be clear.
And it's not near top of market. It's
in that range.
But it's it's a new year. And the market last year was $53 million a year. You would think, okay, they'll push it to 55, right? Just because it's a new year. He's the only, and part of it's because he's the only quarterback in this cycle. So if there were other guys involved, you'd see the numbers going up, and then they'd have to match, and it would get weird. But they just said, nope, last year is where you're going to go. And he said, fine, sure, let's do it.
To be clear, there is an out here. I don't think it ever comes to pass, but there is an out. If the Niners want to take it after the 2026 season, they can take a big old fat cap hit. It was somewhere like, is it 80 million?
Yeah, I got to recheck my math, but I think it's literally like $89 million in a dead cap because, and it won't say that, but it's like the way it works is like each year on April 1st, next year gets guaranteed. And then so you go, well, I'm locked into that year. And then you play that year and then the next year gets guaranteed. So it's basically every single year it does that. So they could just take a big fat L in 2027, eat a ton of dead money, and then they'd have nothing going forward. Or they could eat like 30, and then next year they'd have to eat like 50. So depends how you want to eat it. But there is a genuine like trapdoor escape hatch option. But basically the first 3 years are guaranteed. And because that basically means year 4 is guaranteed, unless he turns into a pumpkin in the first 2.
That's what I'm saying. It's really like a 2+2. And the Niners can do nothing from this current contract. I do think they'll come back to the table if it's all working out A-okay. They'll come back to the table after 26 and try to structure it so that it's not as precarious for Brock and not as strange. It's a clear jumping off point. The Niners can get out, which I highly doubt they'll want to do unless it's, as you said, he turns into a pumpkin. Or it's a nice opportunity to look at it again, maybe work some numbers, get a little crafty again. But let's just say they stand pat. The cap numbers are really what matters, right? And this is maybe the main topic of conversation you and I have had, Hutch, and hopefully our audience is having it with us. The main topic of conversation this offseason is that we have to be able to emotionally and mentally separate cash from cap. From cap. And you just laid it out, right? Like they're going to be paying Brock more than $40 million a year annually, but he'll only count for about 30 on average. But let's just go through the numbers here real quick. First year, right? This is sort of year 0 of the deal.
Yeah.
$9 million against the cap. Okay. That's fine. That's less than Yetur Gross-Matos. And frankly, they had nothing but cap space in which to work with, but that's fine. That's how you want to do it. That's your prerogative.
By the way, this should just serve as because we discussed a little bit of, and I shouldn't have let you talk me into it, of them front loading a little bit because I know they just don't do it.
They hate
do
it. The cap's going to go up forever, baby. We can never die.
What they do is everyone's like, well, they're saving a bunch of money. Could they make a move? Yeah, it gives them flexibility, but they don't really do that. What they do is they roll the money over year after year after year. So you look at it and you're like, oh, they're going to be $10 million like above the salary cap, and then $45 million gets rolled over into next year.
I have a quick point on this, and I don't want to divert too much from the main point, but you know how I roll. I don't spend a lot of time on these, but I did see in doing some research here, a tweet that got aggregated about how much Brock is going to have to pay in California taxes. First off, no, he isn't. That's just the first notion. I think he already lives in Nashville. If he doesn't by now, he'll get on that.
George Kittle has an ADU that he is. By the way, not Purdy's not living there for free. George Kittle's for sure making him pay a premium price.
Unquestionably, there's a
market
lease.
rate.
That's right. If he doesn't live in Wyoming or Texas or Florida or Washington State for some reason, or Nevada or Tennessee, these are all no state income tax states. If he doesn't already, he will now. So the idea that he's going to be paying California taxes, yes, on a prorated basis. But the whole thing, you get into the right-wing echo chamber of taxation is theft. And it's like, yeah, and roads are cool. But that's neither here nor there. My thought on it is basically like the tax. Yeah, fine, let's get back to the original point. I found that whole conversation about the tax to be just laughable. Yeah. Like, it's just absolutely laughable. And he'll be fine. He'll be fine. Yeah. The man's out here buying Toyotas on like a mid software engineer salary.
Yeah, right. Well, he's not actually buying them. He's getting a zero interest lease from Toyota.
The old sweetheart
his deal. That's right.
Yeah, That's right. Old sweetheart lease. He can buy those trucks outright now. He can put a bass boat on the back of them all.
Now he's got a bass boat, folks. And
he could buy all of his offensive linemen bass boats.
It was because, I broke this all down. I mentioned it. I posted it in previously before we got on here, just my breakdown of the whole thing. And I called it Inside the Many #Humble Millions for Brock Purdy. Because it did. And listen, like, it's actually genuine. Let me be clear about that. Like, Purdy is like genuine to a fault. I think like he really is.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any criticism of the man's character or anything like that. No. I think he really is that earnest.
He's like an annoyingly goody two shoes dude.
But it did remind me of, what is it, the movie with Andy Samberg, like Superstar? Where he's like I'm so humble. Like
I feel like Dikembe Mutombo in a bowl full of gumbo.
Right.
Basically, it's a good the hologram of Adam Levine. It is a completely underrated movie. Superstar.
It's incredible, and so I'm listening to the press conference. I'm there, and a little bit, it's just like, well, I just got to have my bass fishing boat, and have it, and I just want to make sure the team has the money to do the contracts with the other guys. I could have pushed for more. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like chuckling, but it is like, no, he actually did do that. That actually is his priority. He did prioritize not getting into it, making sure the deal got done. Cause that part of his brand too, if you lose that actually does matter. If your brand is like wholesome, all-American sort of plucky underdog, and you start getting into the nitty gritty, pushing for every single cent, it does look not ideal. And that being his brand, and listen, I don't think he's that worried about.
I don't
being
think it's
his
that
brand. Yeah. I think it's genuine on his part, but I do think he's somebody that just didn't want to get into any of the nitty gritty and just say like, let's just get this done. If it's whatever it is, just make sure I get like a decent amount guaranteed, and we'll figure it out.
I think there's a self-awareness too.
Yeah,
in that
I agree.
It might not be a brand thing, but it is a public perception thing. And how much is it worth? When you're getting life-changing money one way or another, how much is it worth to Brock Purdy to have to constantly be chasing this theory of what a quarterback who makes that kind of money should be in an era of rampant quarterback inflation where no one actually has any idea what anyone should cost, which is an overarching issue that NFL media deals with. It's certainly something that NFL fans deal with. This is not cut and dry stuff, right? NBA, you sign a contract, you're entitled to that contract, right? Major League Baseball, you sign a contract in most cases, Juan Soto, all these, you're entitled to that money.
If you're Deshaun Watson,
if you're that guy, if you're one guy, the nasty man is the only one who gets that treatment. Great job, Browns. You're killing it, baby. Doing a great job. But everybody else, like, so the number, and this is what I'm saying, the number 265 million. Not even close. Probably won't get within 100 million of that for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, it'll be about 80-ish below that.
That's not even close.
And I tried to tell people because, again, I did a prediction and I patted myself
shockingly accurate.
I got pretty close.
It was scary
to what the numbers would be. And what I underestimated is, so I don't even option bonuses, folks. So let me just real quick.
Stop doing them. They make my head hurt.
Let me just real quick. So what teams are doing now that are smart? Some teams actually don't really understand it or don't have an interest in understanding it or have too small of a staff. I just want to say the Bengals.
Let's check it out.
So
keep talking. I'll get
the way signing bonuses work is you get $40 million broken down over 5 years. So it's $8 million, $8 million, $8 million. That money's locked in. You can't do anything with it. So the 49ers, they only gave him like $40 million signing bonus because that money's locked in for sure. You get it up front, but you can't move that around on the books. What option bonuses do is it's basically guaranteed, but it's salary, right? So if you look in like over the cap, it'll say in year 2, it's something like $47 million in guaranteed money, but then his cap hit is way less. His cap hit is $24 million. So how does that happen? $47 million in guaranteed salary, but only a $24 million cap hit. That's because of option bonuses where you take that salary and you say, actually, we're going to turn this into an option bonus where it breaks down over the next few years. We break it into chunks. So that money's fully guaranteed, but they stretch it out over the cap. And the way the 49ers are doing it is every April 1st, more money guarantees. So he gets that $37.5 million option bonus for 2026.
Specifically, you get a guarantee. It's essentially like picking up a 5th-year option, right? Where you have to pick it up the year before.
Yeah.
So in 26, as you were saying, I apologize. In 26, if he's on the roster April 1st of 26, so before the 26 season, his 2027 salary is guaranteed.
Yeah, and a $15 million option bonus.
Right.
So then 2027 is fully guaranteed.
No, 27 is fully guaranteed option, but everything gets guaranteed.
And then by being on the roster April 1st of 2027, he gets $20 million next year guaranteed. And so it's basically you're locking all of that in.
Which is that's what I'm saying when I mean 2 plus 2. Because you would need to make the decision in 26 to not have him in 27.
Even though 27's already locked in.
So you're basically just eating 27, the full brunt 28. Of that contract. So that you can get you'd be off of them in 27 after 26. So before 26, it's a well-structured contract, and this is the consolation that the 49ers certainly had to make for Purdy because it gives him serious security in his gig. By the way, you mentioned teams that don't do options. So like the Bengals do it. I think everyone else does it. You know who didn't do it? I have them on the screen right now. You can't see it. I apologize. Dak Prescott. Yeah, that's just a prorated signing bonus, baby. And if you're wondering why Dak Prescott's about to get $50 million on the cap and $74 next year, that's why.
They actually can't do much. Like
why would he renegotiate?
He's pretty locked in. It's a sweet deal. Like it's insane, and it's awesome because Dallas just gets to be nothing forever. Because I'll say it. They're not winning anything. Right.
Oh, also the nasty man doesn't have any options.
Right.
We'll see if Kyler Murray has options. Good content, Dieter.
And the point is, Brock doesn't get top of market money. No. Right. He doesn't get top of market money, but he is likely, as long as he doesn't turn into a pumpkin, get about $44 million-ish a year for 4 years
in cash.
Pretty much guaranteed.
Right.
That's a pretty decent deal for him. And then by year 5, you've renegotiated. You're already working on a new deal or an extension.
Yeah, you'd be foolish not to.
The odds that this deal doesn't change are 0. Like the 49ers are restructuring and extending and doing weird stuff with void years. Again, I did predict it pretty closely.
It was shockingly accurate. Shockingly accurate. And I refuse to put it up on the screen because it makes me look bad. But Like it's hard to believe that, okay, let's say after 26, they've already opted into 27 inherently because he played 26. Yeah. And so now you go in, and by the way, if you do nothing, you have still below market rate, right? So like, I don't know what the franchise tag for a quarterback will be for the 2028 season. It could very well be at like 57 million against the cap. It could be 60.
57 million would honestly be fine.
Right.
To pay in 2028.
That's the cap should be at about 350 million by then, if my very loose math. And by the way, do not look at these notes. I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore. This is an afternoon of work. We need to work on that personally.
I have an Excel spreadsheet that almost made me vomit earlier. It's I'm sick to my stomach.
So as the fine folks out in the audience can see, like the cap number 9, 24, 30, and 27, and then 57. After 28, there's almost no reason whatsoever. They can just get out of it. I think it's a $16 million dead cap hit,
it would be more than that, I think.
How so? There's the $8 million signing bonus still, and then there would be an actualized some of the options would be actualized.
All of the options would be actualized into dead cap. So it would be, I think, 55 million in dead cap in 2029 if they just took it, but they'd be saving 17 million. And then they could post June 1 him if they wanted to, which was like a very realistic option. And then they'd save 43 million. And then they'd break it down where it's like a 30 million dead cap and a 25 million. That's much more viable.
Right.
But either way, if you're cutting him, then Jed's saving $100 million.
He's saving the cash. And by the way, to remind everybody, Eric Armstead has a $15 million dead cap hit this season, and Deebo Samuel has a $34 million dead cap hit this season. I think Russell Wilson still has a $33 million dead cap hit on the Broncos. Yeah, they're doing fine.
That's the thing. You can genuinely handle that. Even if it was a $55 million dead cap hit, they could do that. And what they would realistically do is they do like a Hargrave and restructure it where it ends up, take a little bit off. And
give
then
you a little money. We'll give you a little bit of the money. And
folks, are you torqued up, or is everyone aroused by this contract talks? Option bonuses are destroying America.
It is all to say that this is not just a reasonable deal. This is a total steal of a deal. If at the very worst, the cap number for your quarterback is 57, and that's if you do nothing. You sit on it for year after year after year because you just can't make a decision. As bad as it gets is 57 in the year 2028. You have won dramatically. And Brock is still going to get all of his, and he has the option to renegotiate or work out a trade and all this. Like, he's going to be flush.
Jimmy Garoppolo counted for $38 million on the cap. I think it was in 2018.
Yeah,
so you can handle Brock at 57 million in 3 years down the line. If you want, you can handle him at 72 million, which they won't.
They won't,
because it'll get restructured, and you'll never actually have to face that.
Right.
But like they absolutely could. So it's hard for me to see this as anything but a win for the 49ers, who just announced the Fred Warner deal, where they locked everyone up. And again, we said
not everybody. There were certainly some casualties before the line.
Yeah, but the guys who remained, they got the deals done where it's May. And I'm going to go in and write about this because I want the exact dates, and I don't have them available right now when these contracts were usually signed.
Yeah.
This is unprecedented for them. They've never done deals this early. They've done the second-tier deals. They did like a McCaffrey sort of restructure early.
McCaffrey was around this time.
Right.
This was that was the start of getting business done.
To get 3 done this early is extraordinarily rare, and it does signify, I think, that they're like, all right, we realize our approach has maybe not gone according to plan. Let's maybe be proactive about this. And
Christian
now that
McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey, last year, 2024, right? He signs the 2-year, $38 million deal that required apparently no negotiation. He just submitted a bid and it was accepted. That happened on June 4th. They have buckled up business 2 weeks before they started business last year. Like if we're talking about extending people and taking care of business, like 2 weeks before they started last year in earnest. Yeah, they might have learned their lesson, Jake. And you've been asking for it. I've been asking for it. The fans have been asking for it. Don't dick around with this. And you know what? They talked a big game over the last couple of months, and they've had nothing but time to think about it and do their little scouting reports and all that. Oh, we want to make sure that we hit the ground running this year. We want to make sure that, we're in it to win it. We're going to be focused. Last year, we weren't focused. And it's like, yeah, we all could have told you that, and you were the last ones to figure it out. But we weren't focused. Well, I don't know if they'll be able to maintain their focus this long because they've gotten all of their stuff done. And I don't agree with a lot of their stuff. I don't think that should be lost in the wash. I don't agree with how they went about this offseason in general, with just clearing money for the sake of clearing money and not building the best football team possible. But when you have your business sorted, you have a high-quality defensive coordinator in. I don't know what this draft class is, but, we'll see. And then you, by the way, have the easiest schedule in the NFL in a decade, which has also given you the gift of, as we mentioned on the show before, Seattle week 1 on the road. So if that doesn't perk you up in training camp, I don't know what will. I mean, they have been handed every opportunity to take care of business this year and to actually walk the walk that follows all the talk that they've been given. And I'm finding it harder and harder as a non-optimist to not see double-digit wins and maybe a bit of a turning, a steering of the ship in the right direction, given that they're following through on promises that they made and promises that they needed to make and keep.
I'm with you. I think in general, the clearinghouse and organizing their cap and all that, I don't think they actually needed to go as far as they did, but I understand sort of even psychologically where you start cleaning, you're like, well, I'm not going to do half the job. I'm cleaning the entire house.
You should
today.
Get some toddlers. You'll do half the job. But you're right. That. You're right. That's the sane, logical way to go.
They're
about
like,
it.
Let's just get this all organized. This is our chance to do it. Let's get it all clean.
This man.
I understand it.
Children.
I don't. I have a dumb dog who's very, very dumb.
I got one of those too.
Can't wait to see him.
Yep.
And so I think that process, they went a little bit overboard. They didn't need, and it's not cutting all the guys. It's the fact that they didn't add some depth at some key positions. Right. And they'll argue that they brought in some cheap guys to compete. I think what we'll be telling is
name one.
Jason Pinnock, Siren Neal, who
Siren Neal's not real.
Certain folks, Richie Grant, certain folks get awfully excited about and will prove terrible. And then when they get cut, I'm not saying all these guys will prove terrible. I'm just saying a lot of these guys have not had impressive careers, and the teams that watched these players were happy to see them leave. That's the sort of player.
Jordan Elliott action.
That's the sort of player that they brought in. And listen, you want competition? I get it. Like it's better to just throw some cheap darts and see if any of them stick. And then as the offseason progresses, there's always guys lingering. That's what I'm interested to see. Do they bring in like more of a veteran free safety, veteran corner, veteran wide receiver? There's some key spots that like there are some questions there that I think they're going to let OTAs and maybe before camp, but I would expect some additions.
It's always scary when you're bringing in players that are getting pay decreases in free agency. It's like if you're cheap and effective, every team in the NFL is like, oh, well, we should keep that guy.
Right.
But if you're cheap and ineffective, they let you hit the market. And all the Niners brought in were guys who were cheap, and teams let hit the market. We don't need to rehash it. We know what this 53-man roster looks like.
They made 3 real signings, right? DeMarcus Robinson, Mac Jones, and I almost called him Tanner Bortolini. I forgot his name, Luke Farrell.
My God, Tanner Bortolini would have been incredible. Yes. Now, Farrell got a raise. Mac Jones.
Pretty cheap. But
that is at least an obvious reason for why he was cheap. And then
he saw what they did for Sam Darnold.
Yeah. I saw what you did for Sam Darnold. I want you to do it for me. And then who was the first guy? I apologize.
Demarcus Robinson, who cannot likely play for the first 3 games of the season.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Great job.
Who did play really well.
No, yeah. He absolutely kicked the Niners' ass, which is a very classic, like, if you can't beat them, join them. If you can't beat them, sign them away in free agency. That's called the Jermaine Dye principle, and it actually has worked out pretty well, all things considered. To repeat, like, this is a steal of a deal. It will come down to if the Niners want to use the salary cap space that they have to appreciably make their team better, or if it's just all about the cash year after year after year. And this was the point I was trying to get to earlier and then totally lost.
And then you said taxes and you went, all right.
This is what I'm talking. Yeah, I got lost in that sauce. Talk about a tax. Nobody pays more tax in the state of California than the 49ers do against the NFL salary cap, because they just pay 50% on that thing every year when they roll it over. Like, use it. Use it. I know that 1-year deals are not necessarily what NFL players want, especially at large numbers, right? Everyone wants that little bit of security because it's a dangerous game and you never know when your last game will be played. I get it. But at the same time, there is a number. There is a number that everyone can do for a 1-year deal. And if I'm the 49ers, there's some rumors that Amari Cooper's just sort of done, that he just doesn't want to play anymore. Okay, that's fine. But I don't see why what was 13 on the Bills. I'm firing on all cylinders.
Oh,
today.
Gabe Davis.
I don't see, unless the injury stuff is way too serious. But I don't see why you can't throw to Gabe Davis a nice figure of money for a 1-year deal, essentially only needing him for the first 3 games of the campaign until Demarcus Robinson comes in and maybe takes his job. Yeah. But can you be our X receiver for 3 games, buddy? Like, we'll pay you handsomely. For the
ghost
job
of Allen Robinson still out there.
I'm sure he can do it. I'm sure.
So is Miss Simba Webster.
Where's Keenan Allen these days?
I think he is out there. He is out there.
I'm sure he can play.
Conley's still out there.
I mean, I know. I love Chris Conley. Great guy. Good locker room dude. Good special teamer. Ran its course. Wouldn't mind bringing him back if he can't go anywhere else. But the idea of leaning on Chris Conley, we know what that is. I don't. At least you get the mystery box with old ass Keenan Allen. You never know. It might work. It might also be a disaster. But use some of that money. I get that you just had to pay Brock all this money. You wanted to clear house, make sure you had a bunch of cash. But rolling over the salary cap year over year, all you're doing is losing 50% of that year over year. This is as good as the finances.
They're not losing it. You talking about in taxes?
No, I'm just saying the idea of, we have this salary cap money.
Yeah.
Well, it's worth 50% less next year when everyone's more expensive. So add in that than it is right now. And I appreciate that there is a cash element to all of this, but at the same time, use the cap space. They keep rolling it over and then never using it. They don't and that's what was so strange about not front loading. You could have thrown in all of the cap money into Brock Purdy's year 0.
But I think their plan though is, I do think it is the right plan of just saying, all right, well, we'll figure that out down the line. I hear what you're saying. I'm curious to see next year. I would bet they're more proactive in free agency. I would bet that they don't resume giving out just enormous contracts, but I bet they bring in someone of a slightly higher ilk. Granted, it seems like their entire plan is to build around the draft, so maybe I'm completely wrong. But I bet they they pick 1 or 2 guys, especially center, something like that.
Let me throw this your way, because I was unaware of this until literally just right now. This year they have roughly $39 million in cap space. This is per OTC. Obviously, this is all very much in flux, but it includes Purdy's new deal. So they have roughly,
and they'll get more money from when the Warner deal is official too.
Right.
Because he was going to count for 27, and that's going to drop substantially.
I don't know if this is the old one. Okay, so they'll have more money on that. In 2026, the 49ers have, as it is currently projected, and obviously the cap will go up, $6 million in cap space. They're not saintsing it, but they are flirting with.
Well, that's why they roll it over every year, because that's their whole.
So yeah, look at me. I'm an asshole for complaining about them rolling it over. I would need to roll it over too. The 26.
Will you feel better next year if they sign Tyler Linderbaum?
I mean, yeah. So I don't know if is Tyler Linderbaum like a good scheme fit?
I couldn't tell you. I gotta go watch him. I just remember my draft eval and absolutely loving him.
I liked Linderbaum a lot, and obviously he's Iowa. They play a lot of inside zone stuff. I'm sure it'd be fine. He's more of a Weston Richburg, though, than a true Drew Dahlman.
Yeah,
right?
That didn't work out that well.
Which one is that?
Weston Richburg.
No, it didn't. That was an injury thing. Weston Richburg was actually kind of a 6 center.
He was.
Quick note on the April 1st thing, which I do think we need to. Obviously famous for the Brandon Ayuk contract, right? And the really tough spot it put them in this year as it pertained to, can we trade this guy? Can we get off this money? And they couldn't, so they had to pay him, and now he's theirs forever. By the way, Brock Purdy basically just getting paid Brandon Ayuk money against the cap this whole time. So that's fun.
It's true. It's roughly right. Yeah.
The April 1st thing, not a new development. This is something they did with Colin Kaepernick back in the day. So this is a Parag special, and it's really a Jed special.
Yeah, you wait until then, and that way, like, you don't have to put, again, it's like with the signing bonus stuff. You wait until then, that way you're not throwing up $200 million, whatever it is, up front. You add the little bit of guarantee that you have to pay year after year. I will say with some of the options, right? Like with some of these contracts, they're real team options. With these, the way it's set up and the way the amount is guaranteed, it's kind of not real options. I mean, they can get out of it again after 2027, but it's so expensive to do so that it's like, it's not so much. It's like, what I'm saying is some contracts with these team options, like they're real, like opt into this deal or not. With
Plus
this one,
it's
a little bit more likely to just be a 4-year deal and then see after that.
But for a 25-year-old quarterback, like I just don't see the issue here, because the flip side of this is, if it's so bad that after 2 years you're like, we got to get off this Brock deal. Well, that's for somebody else to figure out, because John and Kyle are done. Like they don't have jobs anymore. I don't mean to be, flippant about
Mac Jones lights it up.
Well, I mean, how many times can you get bailed out? So that's for somebody else to figure out, in which case it's a lot more viable to just eat it for a year, because you're starting a new gig. You want to clear house. It's the same thing Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, right? Like, let's just get this guy out of here. We'll eat it for as long as we need to eat it, because we're going with the rookie quarterback anyway.
Right.
And they're cheap. So just consider that quarterback money, and we got a different quarterback in here. On the flip side, if you go 4 years, he's not even 30 yet. And so it's like, what's the concern? Even if you think Brock, and this is a fair concern for Brock Purdy to be very fair. It's not one that's brought up a lot, but now I do think needs to be thrown into the conversation. Like, a quarterback that small probably doesn't have a tremendous amount of longevity.
And I think the biggest concern from the 49ers end is that $182 million is guaranteed for injury. Right. So if he's bad because he's just bad, that's weird, but you can get out of it. If he's bad because he's hurt, you can get stuck with him. That is the biggest concern of this deal, but there's also like no way to avoid that. And what are you going to do? Sign him and go, well, like, you can't expect someone to get hurt. Like, that's just the NFL. You have to expect that he's not going to.
I'm sorry, he's playing professional football.
So, yeah.
And he's a quarterback, right? Like, to be so injured that your career is over is pretty jarring.
You would have liked to have invested a little bit more in the offensive line in tandem with this, and they haven't done that.
Why would they do that? Chris Foerster is the only investment they need, and Trent Williams is going to play forever, which may or may not include the 2025 season. Fun. I'm with you. I will say, on the heels of the tush push not being banned, I made the joke that the tush push conversation is just a cover for the entire league, and they're trying to like build it up. When frankly, offensive line play has like never been worse. It's so bad across the league, to where guys like Will Fries, who is fine, just fine, are getting like 10-figure deals like they're a 3-and-D wing in the NBA.
Banks coming off of just a horrendous season.
Even better example. $77 million for Aaron Banks, someone who we legitimately had the conversation midseason. Should they just bench him? Should they just not play him anymore? And the Packers are like, let's drop some serious money on that guy.
Yeah, and the 49ers are like, we will just take any living, breathing, corporeal form and just put it out there. It doesn't have to be human. It just has to be something that can physically move.
Well, don't challenge the 49ers and their R&D department to come up with some sort of Frankensteinian center or guard, because they'll do it. They'll do it. I don't know what the CBA says about androids or humanoids, but they'll push those limits, right? They're pushing the limits on. I'll pass on that. I prefer humans playing the sport. A lot more volatility with humans, and the volatility is what makes this fun.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful sentiment.
Do you think with Purdy, Warner, Kittle, all signed, what's the next contract of note here?
It's a great one. Because I don't know if they have anything coming up this next offseason. I feel like it's all the offseason after, which would be that would be Pearsall, Pooney, that class, because they whiffed so bad. Like Jair Brown is not an option.
No.
Let's see.
Juwan Jennings?
Juwan Jennings needs another deal. It's Jennings and McKivitz.
Oh, boy.
And
that should be a very sane topic of conversation for all of us.
That's actually it. It's Jennings and McKivitz.
They got out ahead of a lot of it, for sure.
So they don't have to pay. Yep, I can't find anything other than that. Trent Taylor.
Oh, boy. I mean, yeah. So it is really, you kind of said it earlier, and I do think it needs to be hammered home. Okay, this team does have the fiscal flexibility now, or at least the salary cap flexibility, albeit with some real issues in 26 that could be ironed out for sure. And I think the Warner thing will help a little bit. Also, like Trent Williams just not playing anymore. There's $38 million against the cap gone.
That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting.
So I guess that might be the next big contract, right? Because Trent currently, as I see it, has no guaranteed money for this season.
That's not accurate.
I'm looking at OTC.
I forget how. Yeah, no,
I'm looking at this. 2025, zero. He's got a prorated signing bonus. He has no option money. He has
right, but what do you mean? I mean, he counts for $21 million. That's like
I'm not arguing
that
him
doesn't do anything.
I think that this contract, and correct me if I'm wrong. Hopefully, you're looking at this, so I don't have to explain.
I'm looking at the same thing.
This contract looks like the Niners built it so that if he retires, they're covered. Is that what you're seeing?
I don't know about that because retirements get weird where you have to eat a bunch of dead money.
They have to do signing bonus, right? Signing bonus is paid out regardless.
Signing bonus is always paid out regardless. So I don't know. I think if he retires, there's a lot of money that they have to pay anyway. So I'm not an expert on retirements.
I'm looking here. Is his signing bonus $73 million?
Yeah, he got an insane, Or it says it was, yeah, because that includes money from the last deal.
That is, I'm not saying he ain't worth it. Didn't say that, but that is insane.
Yeah,
that is unbelievable.
He's got 2 years left, and if you ride it out, then he just counts for $28 million dead cap to not play for you in 2027.
Oh well, and I'm sure they'll aptly replace that.
So that's the big one in 2027, 2020, maybe next year that they have to figure that out. But really, like, they don't have a lot of things that they have to figure out. They have Jennings and McKivitz and Trent and Trent's and always like they don't even know.
No,
right?
Does he know?
So
who's to say?
No.
I don't know if we know either. By the way, all of this just stands to reason that Brock should have made the contract value $262. It should have been a decent bit because none of this, it's all funny money. And what's $3 million for a good bit? You know,
I had as a bit in my initial projection in January, I said that they would give him a $262 option bonus.
A little extra.
Year.
A little extra something.
Just to throw it in there. Again, you can read my full breakdown on the Hutch report where I show you my old prediction that was pretty damn close.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Purdy, he gets a lot guaranteed. 49ers get enough flexibility. They're not going anywhere with him. They know, like, if he fails, if he turns into a pumpkin, we're screwed anyway.
Right.
So why not go down with the ship? It's likely to be a 4-year deal, and they only have to pay him $30 million a year on average over those 4 years.
Yeah,
hard to see that as a loss.
And if you want to get out on this, it's such a catastrophic issue that a huge dead cap number that won't be the impediment at all. Hopefully you didn't see any impediment on becoming an official sicko during this conversation, which was wild. What a wild conversation.
Did we explain it? Did anyone understand anything? Do we all feel smarter?
Do you and I feel smarter or understand anything? I don't know. I'm just glad that it's over, Jake.
I am too, because now I can get back to finishing up the rookie guide that I keep promising, but the 49ers keep signing people to deals where I'm like, all right, I'm going to finish it today, and then they sign Brock Purdy, and I have to write 3 things in a row on it.
Working. By the way, you can subscribe to Jake's Hutch report. That QR code is, it's in the corner there. It's for free. I'm a paying subscriber. Didn't get the discount. Don't know what that's about. And then you can be a paying subscriber to this here podcast for reasons unknown, but deeply appreciated. That QR code on the bottom right
comes with the full draft guide, and will come with the rookie guide when it's out. Which, now that there's no more contracts, I can actually finish it. So,
and don't forget the 2026 college football watching guide. Who are some players that you should keep an eye on? That's a deeper joint.
We'll put that out in a date TBD.
Yeah, and then the season preview mag.
Well, we'll get into that.
In the year 2025, we're throwing it back to Dr. Z in sports, the season preview mag. I'm excited for it. We probably should get working on it.
That's right.
We'll have columns and things. It's whatever. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.